Hey guys, this is Jillian with Far Out Tiny Homes. We just had a live stream about our tiny homes in relation to Appendix Q and how you can permit your tiny home on wheels or your permanent foundation tiny home. And the audio and the recording was a little glitchy. I'm not sure what's going on, but I go over it all. I do have a, let's see here, let's make it a little bigger. There we go. I do have a nice little PowerPoint for you. So we're going to go over this. So today, like I said, we are discussing permitting tiny homes through Appendix Q. So today's agenda, we're going to discuss the acronym IRC, what it means, what the actual appendix is addressing. We're going to discuss some questions on what if my tiny home on wheels is already on wheels, challenges ahead, and then of course, um, well, I, I won't have a question and answer session, but we did. But we're going to skip that for. Let's go over really quick what we are not. Today we are only discuss tiny homes, which are single dwelling units, 400 square feet and below. So let's get some verbiage. Let's all get on the same path, right? So we are not discussing park models today. This is a beautiful park model by Mustard Seed Tiny Homes. This is not what we are, okay? Park models are governed recreational housing. And within the IRC, there are some funky stipulations that make these homes a little bit more cumbersome to work with, okay? We are also not considered manufactured homes. So this manufactured homes are governed by HUD, and we do not fall into this category. Now I think it's Idaho, they had tried to work in some tiny home code within HUD. I'm not really sure where that went, but that was only one state. But for now, we are not discussing ourselves as being a manufactured home. And then lastly, modular home. We are, as of this moment, January 31st, 2021, we are also not considered a modular home. So just know that when I say tiny home, I mean any single dwelling unit that is 400 square feet or less. All right, let's get down into it. What is the IRC and how does Appendix Q relate? So the IRC is the International Residential Code, and it's a code that addresses design and construction of 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouses no more than 3 stories above ground. Why do we need it? And I know some of you are already going to be rolling your eyes at this, but we need it to have a baseline of safety in our construction practices and processes. This allows us to build safe structures that are checked and rechecked again to make sure that you in your home, in your family, in your home within your community is safe for everyone. Do they have some codes that are kind of ridiculous? Yes, they do. But with Appendix Q, we are learning to work with the IRC because I'll let you know it's not going anywhere. The IRC has been adopted in every state in the U.S. except for Wisconsin. It is also adopted in Guam. The goal of the IRC has become international. That's why it's called the International Residential Code. So we can get a baseline for safety around the world when it comes to construction. Okay. So what is Appendix Q then? Okay. So Appendix Q addresses the IRC compliance challenges regarding the body of code as they apply to houses that are 400 square feet and less. The appendix shall be applicable to tiny houses used as single dwelling units. Tiny houses shall comply with this code except as otherwise stated in this appendix. What does that mean? That means that if you don't see the specific code within your Appendix Q, you're going to default to the International Residential Code. A specific example would be insulation. There's no literature within the Appendix Q that specifically discusses insulation. So you would then default to the IRC for those guidelines. One caveat to this whole interesting to adopt the 2018 IRC guidelines in order for you all then to adopt the Appendix Q. And I know not every state is working within the 2018 version, but that would be your first step. And you can literally call your zoning and planning department and ask these questions, and they'll be able to give you this information really quickly. Okay, so let's dig into Appendix Q and specifically the main points that it addresses. Now, obviously, I have the Appendix Q description or link, excuse me, in the description, so you can go and see the nuances and the asterisks and the tiny writing there. But the main points that we're going to go over today are the ceiling height, the sleeping lofts, loft access, and means of egress. So getting right into it, ceiling height minimums. So number one, all ceiling heights have to be 6 feet 8 inches in general. For spaces where there is a loft above head, whether it's a kitchen or a bathroom, you can bring that ceiling height down to 6 foot 4 inches, but the rest of the house has to be that 6 foot 8 inches in general. You can only bring it down if there's a loft above those two rooms, right? Or those two spaces. So speaking loft or ceiling height above stairs. So as you're climbing up your stairs, you have to have a minimum of 6 feet 2 inches above head. So from tread to ceiling, that needs to be 6 feet 2 inches in total height until you reach that landing platform. And then that ceiling can come down to 4 feet 6 inches. Stairs. There's a lot that did change within the IRC. Through Appendix Q for stairs, the minimum width now is 20 inches without a handrail. Riser height between 7 inches and 12 inches, so you can create those beautiful storage steps or just have less space taken up by having a 12-inch riser height. There is a tread and riser relationship that when you're working with your licensed design professional, they need to understand in order to create a house that will be in a style. Right here, this is a ship ladder, and then this you need to use an alternating tread device. Sleeping loft. So within the sleeping loft, the space itself needs to be a minimum of 35 square feet, and it needs to be 5 feet in any horizontal direction. Now, I will let you know that I do have a picture coming up in the next slide that it details all of this. So if you're visual like me, hang in there. There is a 3 foot minimum ceiling height, exception with a gabled roof. So let's look at that picture. So here's our rudimentary loft, okay? So here's where I'm talking about the 5 foot minimum in any horizontal direction. So I'm talking from wall to wall or wall to guardrail, this being the wall to guardrail. This space needs to have a minimum square footage of 35, okay? Now let's consider heights. So in a high-low, this is a gabled roof. That's a double slope, right? In a high-low roof, your ceiling height must meet a minimum of 3 feet in order to count the space within the 35 square foot minimum. So in a high-low, if that roof line goes below that 3 feet, it's okay. It can go below that 3 feet, but you will not be able to count that space past that 3 foot minimum height. So right here, this is a good example. None of this space will count, okay? Now, here's the gable exception, only for this style of roof, right? Has to be a 612 gable, 16-inch tall walls. So now, from 3 foot to 16 inches, all this space will count. What will not count is anything below that 16-inch marker. Can you have it in the space? Yes, you can. But you have to make sure that you have enough minimum square footage to meet 35 minimum square feet. Oh, it's kind of redundant. But hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. So now going back, things to know. Number one, 3 feet and up for ceiling height counts towards that 35 square foot in every roof style except for the gable. Number two, loft ceilings can be lower than 3 feet, but will not count towards that minimum 35 square foot requirement. Let's talk emergency egress and rescue real quick. So there are minimums and there are restrictions. So number one, minimum 5.7 operable square foot window by means of egress is necessary in all sleeping areas. So whether that's a loft or a bedroom or an open floor plan, you have to have a means of egress. There is minimum height and width restrictions for your means of egress. The window sill itself cannot be higher than 44 inches off the floor. Okay, so if you're at 45, go back to your architect or your engineer, hey, it has to be at that 44. That's the absolute tallest we can go when it comes to sill height. Skylights are now permissible in, so we're at number four, excuse me. Skylights are now permissible as forms of egress in a sleeping loft, but they must meet that 5.7 operable square feet, and they cannot be higher than 44 inches off the ground. I do have a picture for you. So let's actually look at that. So how do I get that 5.7 operable square feet? It's a pretty big window. It would be if it was a slider. That'd be a pretty darn big window. A lot of folks are using these casement windows, so you can fully open them and you can obtain that 5.7 operable square footage really easily, and it's pretty cost efficient as well. So now let's take a look at the skylight. So here we are, we're in our loft, and here's that base of the skylight, so the skylight windowsill. This measurement right here cannot be taller than 44 inches. So in a loft, you just have to understand, you got to hit all of those space restrictions in order for your space to be permissible. So it's fairly simple. You just have to know about them. And your licensed design professional needs to understand them 100% so you can hit those marks. Things to know, like I said before, must have points of egress in all sleeping areas. So I have, let's say I have a double loft and I have a downstairs bedroom. Okay, both lofts have to have skylights, those big skylights, and that downstairs bedroom needs to have that big casement window or a window that has a 5.7 operable square feet. Yeah, jump in budget for sure. Skylights are expensive, but it's necessary. You want to make sure that you're safe and your family is safe in your tiny home, because if anything happens, especially fire in a tiny home, it can go real quick. So you want to be able to get out of there as fast as possible. What if I have a 20-foot tiny home and it's all open floor plan except for the bathroom? The bathroom is the only thing that I have decided to block off, right? Well, you will need to have a point of egress near your sleeping quarters. So your front door is not going to suffice. You need to have a secondary point of egress. It's just what it is, whether it's good or bad. I think it's good. I mean, where you're incapacitated and emergency tech needs to get to you, it's always better to have way more entry points than not enough. Here's that picture again, just discussing what the window is going to look like and the height of the windowsill. So for many of you tuning in today, you already have a tiny home and it's already on a trailer. So how do I go about approaching my permitting department and receiving my occupancy permit? This is where you're going to want to listen up. So if you are multitasking, come back to me. This is really important. So within the 2015 version of the IRC, there is a section references R104.1, Alternative Materials, Design, and Methods of Construction and Equipment. Put on the back burner. Let's pop over here to this right side, right where it says start here first. So your tiny home must meet all other provisions of the code. So we discussed that RV certified tiny homes are governed by ANSI and NFPA, and RV is never labeled a permanent dwelling. It is a recreational vehicle. The RV certified tiny homes are to a very different standard than a tiny home that is built using IRC and Appendix Q. IRC has some very stringent provisions and codes that must be met. ANSI and NFPA are great for RVs because they make the space it's just a different means, a different code of building, not as stringent as the IRC. So in my opinion, unless your builder knew that you had future goals of parking your tiny home on its own lot, there is a pretty good chance that that RV certified home will not be permissible, unfortunately. Now, the other question that comes up is, well, what if I do meet all the codes? Like, what if my builder already knew this and they built the home according to IRC so I could get it permitted? Then what? Then can I do this? Well, I don't know, because it's certified in RV, and something that's certified in RV through IRC is never deemed a permanent dwelling unit. It's a recreational vehicle. So I couldn't tell you a yes or no on this one. You're going to have to work with your zoning department to see what kind of traction you can get. But if your tiny home does meet all the provisions of the code, then you're going to move on to this second step right here, which is you're going to hire a licensed design professional to create the plans of how you intend to meet the code with the home on the trailer. So the intent of the foundational code, which this is step 3, is to provide load path to the ground and security of the home to the ground. So as you're working with your architect or your structural engineer to create these plans, they're going to have to understand that, hey, I want to meet the intent of the foundation code. So please design me a plan where I can, whether it's through blocking or tie downs, meet the code so I can move forward getting my occupancy permit. And then what you're going to do after that is you are going to understand that licensed design professional is going to need to reference the IRC section R104.11. So we can say the foundation is the trailer, and then we're going to be blocking or tying it down, and this is what it's going to look like. Because I think with tiny homes, they're scared of that uplift. So you just want to make sure that you're creating a space where you're referencing the section that you need to reference, and then you're creating a very safe environment that the permitting department you'll get that stamp and seal of approval. So what do I do from here? So let's say your home meets IRC, you have your plumbing, you have your structural, you have your electrical plans from your builder, and they have built everything to a T. And then you went to your architect, and your architect created this foundation that meets the intent of the code. He used the section 104.11 to bring in the trailer as the foundation. You're going to take all of your paperwork and you're going to go to your permitting office, and you're going to say, here you go. Now, can I have my permit, please? And of course, you're going to be nice and have a bright smile on your face, and you're going to be super friendly, right? They're going to give you, well, first off, you're going to have a 50-50% chance. They're going to either say, yes, here you go, pay the fees, good day to you. Or they're going to say, wrong, this isn't going to work. Here's the silver lining if you get the big NO. They're going to send you a piece of paper detailing why that plan that your licensed design professional came up with doesn't work. So then what are you going to do? You're going to take your stack of papers, and then you're going to take that piece of paper that they sent you, and you're going to march yourself back to your architect's office, and you're going to say, here you go. I need you to redo the plan, but make these changes, and then let me know. They're going to say, okay, they make the changes, you go back. And basically, you're doing this song and dance until you've met all the provisions that they have thrown at you, and you've jumped through all the hoops, and they're going to say, okay, that will be X amount of dollars, and have a great day. Or they're going to continue to push and push and push until you get to the point where your architect is like, I have no more tricks up my sleeve. I don't know what to do from here. This is what you do. So if an argument ensues, hopefully this is dramatic. I don't ever want you to have to argue with your zoning department. They're literally there to help us all. Okay. So they speak a very specific language. So what I want you to do is invest time in speaking their language so they will understand what you're saying. So throughout the entire IRC, there, in any version, there's a section R101.3, which is the intent of the code. What does that mean? Please look to the right side. The intent of the code. The purpose of this code is to establish minimum requirements to safeguard the public safety, health, and general welfare through affordability, structural strength, means of egress facilities, stability, sanitation, light and ventilation, energy conservation, and safety to life and property from fire and other hazards attributed to the built environment, and to provide safety to firefighters and emergency responders during emergency operations. Okay. Note, I underlined and bolded affordability. The intent of the IRC, the intent of the whole code is to offer safe and affordable housing to all. You bought your parcel of land. The only affordable way for you specifically is to take that tiny home that you've already paid for that meets all provisions of the code through Appendix Q, and you have your code from your plan from your architect to create that permanent foundation and place it on your land. That's the only way that you can afford housing, is this. And now you are speaking their language. Hey, the intent of you all is to provide affordable housing. Yes, it has to be safe. Yes, it has to meet a ton of provisions. But number one, it is affordable. I don't know about you, but Las Vegas doesn't offer affordable housing. It just doesn't. Our median home price is right below $400,000. It's actually insane if you start to think about it. So that's your argument. Hey, look, I've gone back and forth with you. I have hired a licensed design professional. They have created a very safe and structurally worthy foundation of the trailer, and you all have pushed me away. Well, here it is. This is the only way I can afford housing right now. And then you wait. What else are they going to say? What else are they going to throw at you? Now, I will tell you that I did not study the code, and I did not come up with this genius this roadmap. Okay, this isn't me. This is Andrew Morrison and his team. They are the ones who are diligently really captaining this movement, and he is the one who is taking Appendix Q and going through the state and making sure that people understand that there are other ways of building out there, and these other ways are more affordable and there are less impact on our beloved Mother Earth. And so I definitely do have to shout out to Andrew Morrison and his crew for putting this roadmap together. I am merely just here to help you all understand it and to continue to share the effort. So that is that. I do want to touch really quick though on what's going on in California. This was just a couple days ago. I want to say January 27th. And basically, Santa Cruz is through THEA, which is the Tiny Home Industry Association. They're trying to bring back ordinance that will legalize movable tiny homes through 3 different means, whether they're ADUs, which is an accessory dwelling unit. So if you already have a home on a permanent foundation, they're wanting you to be able to park your tiny home in the backyard if the space is big enough. And of course, it has to meet all sorts of other conditions, but they want to be able to allow folks to do that. It's using the housing existing housing fabric. It's actually a really cool, groovy idea. Number 2, single family lots. So you want to be able to buy your own parcel and park your tiny home on it. And number 3 are tiny home villages and planned unit development. So I don't know how they're going to introduce RV certified tiny homes. If they are, I don't think they're working through the ICC. I don't think this will be something that's introduced as an appendix because it's an ordinance on a city level. I did reach out to them and I haven't heard back, but on the website it does say that this could have, national ramifications and a lot of other folks could use it. And I'm just, I'm failing to see how I could bring this little bit that they're doing in Santa Cruz here to Las Vegas. So I will continue to research and reach out to these people and try to figure out what these answers are to the questions that all of us have. But that is the breaking news out of California. So let's hope it makes the movement move. It doesn't hinder the movement and we can move forward with this. So that is all I have for you all today. And if you are on the live feed, I just want to say thank you for your support. It was awesome having you guys there and presenting this in front of a live audience. It just means a lot. So thank you all so very much. And I hope that you guys have a great day. Of course, if you have comments, leave them below. I am totally available to answer any questions, comments, whatever. So keep the conversation going, and you know what to do. Keep it groovy.